Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I am an Axiological atheist. And today I want to do a video about faith versus facts. And I'm titling it, in a sense, Shifting Through the Claims in Support of Faith. So to me, atheism became obvious once you see that faith is not facts, it's feelings. What that has to do with atheism in general is how all gods need faith to be believed. Thus, once one lacks faith and demands facts, they realize that they are already an atheist. And a commenter said to me, to that, Damien, facts are facts, but the power of faith is always met with great rewards. So you can keep your facts and I'll keep my faith. So my response to that was, can faith ever fail? Or do you decide it is always right? Or just never wrong? What do you mean by faith? And how have you confirmed it is an accurate method? And if it is such an accurate method, do you believe it works for everyone that uses it with the same accuracy, no matter the use or the beliefs it is used for? And I got no response to that. And then someone else said to me, and they're a challenger, logical positivism has failed as a philosophy because its central claims were themselves not derived from logic. They were assumptions. It would have saved by calling it presuppositional logical positivism. But almost any system, including Christianity, can be made sound through presuppositionalism. The problem is if we say science and rationality are the best way to knowledge, those claims are themselves not scientific nor rational claims, which I don't agree. My response was, all thinking has presuppositions, including what you just posted, as you state as hard facts. What do you mean by science and rationality? Are you not making a rational attempt to a set of claims that are said to be true? Please identify your method of accuracy to assume truth you report to offer. Let's start with that. What do you mean by knowledge also? Saying that something fails means that you have a method to account for this, and that you are ready to demonstrate it has accuracy, so please do so. Are your central claims derived from logic? And then the challenger's response was, yeah, I think we need some Weinstein here, or Wittgenstein, I don't pronounce it. He would say that every utterance is a move in language game with many unstated rules. Kant said it first. Perception without conception is blind. Every perception comes from some conception behind it. So yes, my claims assume some rational basis. So it would be contradictory if I used them to undermine rationality itself. The idea is not that rationality is invalid. I am just pointing out that the non-controversial idea, supported by habit and research, that humans often don't derive their values that way. They feel first, then reason towards their feelings. This is true even for science types. We are just the ones who can't accept science gives us facts. It feels right to us and doesn't violate any deep-held feelings. To a point, I gave the example of free will. I think that science shows that we don't have it, but I can't shake the feeling that I do. Delete or hide this. As if he thought that I was so challenged by that statement that I would delete or hide his comment. Yeah, not even close. We're going to have a nice long talk on back and forth, so get comfortable. My response: so you are appealing to authority, or do you feel you are making free-thinking claims? I think you should welcome a recorded video with me, right? He did not. And this is his response. I got muted in an Iowa atheist and free-thinking site. They removed my comments and muted people after the discussion got too heated. I think they are worried about losing members, so I understand. It turns out that most members looked at their group as an oasis, a haven from religion, and their real aim wasn't free thought, but to be with like-minded people. That's the opposite of free thought. I haven't found a group yet that is really committed to free thinking. Full court. I think human nature makes it hard or impossible. My response: why some group choose to remove people may have many reasons. I was removed from a group, the Indiana Atheists, as they made a comment about one of my videos, and I challenged them, and the person didn't like being shown that they were wrong. Thus, they were not open to see things in a new way. They removed me. I don't blame the group nor even the person that did so, as I get that we are first emotional thinkers, and only as an afterthought or secondary thought we may choose to process things rationally. And I know I too get emotionally hijacked. And thus, as a part of championing openness, I also try to see through compassion for others when they choose emotions in response that would actually require reason, or would be better suited with reason. What do you mean in a sense by free thought, as you stated so strongly with your statement claims? How did you acquire the accuracy that you are actually using free thinking? Here is a definition of free thinker: a person who thinks freely or independently, and one who forms opinions on the basis of reason independent of authority, especially one who rejects or is skeptical of religious dogma. And that's from Martin and Webster Dictionary. And the challenger's response was, I'm with you. That for too long we have only seen through the eyes of hate and difference, as you stated. But if we value liberty, we'll let people hate and discriminate. For instance, I discriminated when I was dating. I didn't hate it if an arranged marriage was forced on me, or if my wife was chosen at random. When I reflect that way, it's not a leap of understanding that people would like to choose their kid's teacher to not be gay, for instance. They might be morally wrong, but liberty must include the right to be wrong, or it doesn't mean much. So there's a tension between liberty and love. My response: who said I keep people from the liberty of hating in public? What I do is I openly challenge the errors in thinking or the harmful behaviors they display, not deny their right to make errors. I don't remove their rights in public, but I may remove them from my profile, as I have the right to my space, and being on my personal profile is a privilege, not a right. However, I do allow all manner of ignorance and hate on my YouTube, which I see as a fully public arena to me. Just read some of the comments on my most popular video and you'll see the proof. And it's Atheist in a Wheelchair challenges a street preacher, if anyone's wondering. And yet, even there, I am hard on ideas or behaviors, but strive to be kind to people. And it's my response also. The hammer of truth, which is my philosophical type of tools to question people, which is investigate ontology, expose epistemology, and judge with axiology. And the challenger's response was, okay, but judging requires a standard, as you have pointed out. So by itself, this hammer doesn't say what the standard is. Two people can share ontology and epistemology, but feel differently about this because of their evolved psychology and emotional natures. They may reach thus different conclusions. They will both be wrong about the other's values and their rights, but theirs. My response: you didn't ask what the standard was or find out why it was or was not valid, as would be or have been a better question if you're trying to demonstrate free thinking. As in, do you want to learn from me or only challenge me out of a desire to try to one-up me? Are you demonstrating things I need to learn from you on how to correctly do free thinking? If so, point them out, please. And how are you confirming they are accurately free thinking? But I'll go ahead and offer you, here is my hammer of truth, which is my folk, in a sense, name for the methodological use of philosophy to address and break down errors or confirm and build truth. Ontology, epistemology, and axiology questions to remove errors and add accuracy. Ontology, in a sense, which is being, that which is, and logos, in a sense, discourse, in a sense, study, clarification, and reason. Ontology, in a sense, is the philosophic study, nature of being, becoming, and existence, or reality, as well as the basic categories of being and their relationships, or what I say is the thingness of things. So when you ask ontology questions, you want to know what something is. Epistemology is, in a sense, knowledge, understanding, and meaning, discourse, study, or calculation and reason. It is the theory, in a sense, of knowledge, especially with regards to its methods, its validity, its scope. Epistemology and the investigation of what distinguishes justified true belief from just opinion. Axiology, which is, in a sense, worth, value, and a meaning, discourse, rational conclusions, and reason. It is the philosophic study of value, as well as ethics and aesthetics. Formal axiology is a specific branch of science of axiology. Axiology also includes, or is understanding of, goodness, value, worth, in the widest sense of these terms. It is significant in the unification of what has been previously studied in a various amount of questions, like economic, moral, aesthetic, and even logical, that have often been considered in relative isolation from each other. So here's a little mock debate court using the hammer of truth. Ontology is reality, questions, or assertions. Witness gives evidence about the claim. Epistemology, truth, questions, or assertions. Lawyer searches for warrant or justification of the claim. Axiology, goodness for, questions, assertions. Judge, jury, assesses the value, judges, because of the qualities or the lack of qualities in a claim. In a sense, always try to follow some similar form of attack in this order. Start with ontology, which is the understanding of the thingness of things. like what is or can be real, like not God. In a sense, questions like this: what is your claim? Like, what is a God? What aspects must there be for your claim? Asking in the sense its qualities. What makes your claim different or similar to other claims? You're asking its relatedness to understand it. Epistemology is the understanding of what you know or can know. It is, in the sense, you have anything in this reality to know anything about this term you call God. And no way of knowing if there is anything non-naturalism beyond the universe, and no way to state anything about it if there were. How do you know your claim? In other words, questions like this. Other questions: how relatable or valid must aspects of your claim be, in a sense? Or, how does the source of your claim make it different than other similar claims? You're trying to find out how they understand it and know it, and why they know it's accurate. And then once they give you that, then you essentially use axiology to judge, which is understanding what it is good for or valuable, as well as what is, in a sense, evil or unvaluable. Like how stories about the theistic gods are often racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, intersex-phobic, xenophobic, etc. Thus, they are directly against humanity, and thus are evil and unvaluable. Unvaluable, as in the God concept you have, is evil and demonstrably harmful, and thus is highly unvaluable to humanity. Questions like, what are your objects or proposed value subjects psychological states or objective psychological external world states for your claim? In other words, you're asking it, what makes someone, in a sense, think that that something is beyond just a psychological idea and an actual, in a sense, external world or real world, like a science, real world demonstratable quality for us to understand. Because to me, if you can't grasp a thing's value, then it doesn't sense you haven't proved its value. And if you haven't proved its value, then you can't claim it as true value. And why, in a sense, do your proposed descriptive words fit qualities in a sense of valuation, such as powerful, knowing, and present, or the omnipresent, all-powerful, and omnipotent, all-knowing, and all, present, gods that people want to claim? How can they claim any of these claims have value? To say something is all-knowing, what do we know it's all-knowing, or all-present, or all-powerful? And then the challenge to how they can assess that. How can you assess something as all-knowing? How can you assess and claim to know that something is all-knowing? And what would it mean if something was all-powerful? What would they be able to do or not do? How would you be able to see that in the world? How would you be able to see if something was all-knowing and not all-knowing? How would you be able to see if something was present or not all-present? To be able to evaluate this and to make these claims and assertions as true, you would have to have some way of demonstrating this. And then also, why is, in a sense, your value for, or worth for, or goodness for claims different or similar than other claims? Like I always say to people when they say, they have faith, well, if faith is a great method, where does that, in a sense, stop? Is it just any faith? How would you discern, in a sense, one religion's faith from another religion's faith, since they're all claiming faith, and there's different religions coming up with different things? Or if you say all one faith, so they're all, in a sense, a monotheistic faith, but they certainly aren't all the same, and yet they're all using the supposed same method. How do we discern this? Which method is actually reaching the correct, accuracy for what's being claimed? Take, for instance, how religion supporters try, in a sense, evaluation tactics of saying there are peaceful religions, as opposed to if someone were to say, well, that religions cause war. Well, just saying that there's peaceful religions somehow didn't remove any of the harmful religions. And I may respond, what do you mean by religion and what do you mean by peaceful or good? Asking to find truth or, as usual, expose a lack of a good ontology, a good of thingness of what they're talking about. Then I may respond, how do you know what your sources and how relatable are they? Asking to find out, in a sense, the truth, or as usual, exposing the lack of a good epistemology. Then I may respond, what value do you think you are saying has, and what level of proof do you have or do you feel that needs to be done, as well as how have you ensured accuracy? In a sense, asking to find out the truth, or as usual, expose a lack of a good axiology. In general, in all my thinking, my ontology, epistemology, and axiological theorizing, it involves some expression of justificationism, as in, I require a worthy argument that is justified with good warrants, quality rich with valid and reliable reason and evidence, that is connected to the accuracy of the truth that is claimed. Ontology, in a sense, again, what are you talking about? Please slow down and give me each specific detail individually. Epistemology, how do you know that and why do you think that it is justified or warranted? And axiology, what is its value, if any, and why do you think you value that, or why would anyone? If you don't already know, this is dialectic, in a sense, an art of investigating and discussions for truth or opinions. What I am trying to say is, in this message, is dialectic questions in order to find out truth by giving people 3 types of questions that can be put toward almost anything and help remove errors and thus improve accuracy. To me, the first requirement in free thinking is to stop assuming so much and ask questions, then honestly respond to what is claimed. And the challenger came back. You stated, thus they are directly against humanity, talking about gods, and are evil and unvaluable. This is a position that is not shared by everyone. Some people value God more than humanity. So people do not share this premise and will be presumed by your arguments. And there might be people who cannot feel that humanity concerns should be primary. To such people, it is an institution and just obvious and self-evident that a God should come first. They probably can't justify that according to your system, but since it is a felt passion like loving their kids, they don't need to. My response: there is indeed many theistic people who value God more than humanity. That doesn't remove humanity's value, just because some people don't see it, and there are many other reasons beyond theism that this can and does happen, such as sexism, in a sense, doesn't value women, and racists don't value all races, etc. That is their errors, not a lowering of actual value. I would first say to somebody who promotes that God is more important than humanity, because see, this is the issue. Humanity is something we do know, something we can, in a sense, can show and is demonstratable. God is not. So I would ask them, what is a God? And I agree, they probably can't justify that according to my system of the hammer of truth. I haven't yet to really get someone who can. But as to your point about real world things like loving their kids, it is actually a reality thing. And I can judge them in error if they don't love their kids and instead abuse them horribly. And so my response is then explaining my sense real morality versus pseudo morality. In a sense, morals is the personal morality relating to self-morality. They are not held by all in the same way, since they are not, in a sense, held to orthodox faith. And though most will, in a sense, start at good and bad, right and wrong values, which usually are personal, family, socially, or religiously given in some way or another, defined, thus not universal, though. Ethics, which is social morality, relating to others' morality. Ethics are not considered to be given by religion's value systems to motivate its ideas of right and wrong. Instead, it relies more on universal, in a sense, truths founded in universal principles of just human actions. Ethics is a set of standards used to personally engage with others, and its universal truths set goals of universal ethical standards. Thus, ethics are generally pro-social prescription. We, as, in a sense, morally aware beings, in a rather universal way, tend to have some awareness of, and it is not just an awareness, as in one holds, in a sense, to ethics often if it applies to all people. Some may wish to devalue people, but to do so is not really, in a sense, unethical, though often it can lead to unethical behavior. So what I'm trying to highlight is how the behavior that is ethics, in a sense, violation could occur as an internal attitude of devaluing others would only be, in a sense, possible moral violations, such as one who valued virtue and not getting it, in a sense, but failing in persuasion of devaluing the life of others. This simple, in a sense, internal devaluing of humans that they may be doing is vile, but ethics would not be involved until public behaviors are followed with others. As such, ethics is not so much in a sense, persuasion or adherence to a standard that should cover all. Thus, it is highly applicable to utilize, in a sense, an environment, decision-making situations. Real morality refers to ethics, social morality relating to our behavior with others, morality, as opposed to morals, the personal, in a sense, moral, persuasion relating to self-morality. Because we, in a sense, should use real morality or need to, and assist in judging the behaviors and social dynamic behaviors evidenced or interacted in, and can only, in a sense, accurate in a social dynamic, in a sense, social behavior realm, is where ethics are involved. As such, all morality positions removed from a social dynamic, which are, in a sense, accurate only to a personal dynamic, lack the attachment to real morality. What you do to yourself, in a sense, shouldn't have, in a sense, a morality, reference. It's only, in a sense, a real morality, in a sense, the ethics of how you behave to others, referring to a social nature of ethics. In other words, if you are by yourself, in a sense, like let's say that somehow you could be on a stranded island and there's no one else on the entire planet, it's just you, and there's no way you can affect anyone. Something you do only to yourself is neither ethical nor immoral. Thus, doing a behavior that is only personal, a belief, moral, or otherwise, by yourself and only something to yourself is, in a sense, a morality to everyone. But that chosen person doing a behavior that is only personal, because it's just to them. One can choose to personally value some moral standard for themselves if they wish. But because morals, the personal, in a sense, valued behaviors, as opposed to ethics, the, in a sense, interpersonal, social valued behaviors, which they're, in a sense, why there's businesses never have business morals, it's business ethics, is about our social behaviors we can hold others to, whereas morals are only something we can hold ourselves to. I hold the assumptions that to understand morality more fully, we need to understand its synthesis and properties by emphasizing its relationships, in a sense, conceptual tools of understanding for motivation and behavior, such as things like the biopsychosocial model, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, or Kohlberg's moral development theory, and formal axiology, in a sense, interactions which are across multiple levels of morality, or it should be seen as engaging in multiple levels of morality. Real morality is an elegant, in a sense, aspect limited to the sphere of social dynamics, social result in human progress, and a social, in a sense, evolution understood in the sense mental processes of highly cognitively developed beings, in a sense biological in that area, and develop psychological qualities of awareness, which is psychological, and the so-called moral facts and values that support or motivate them is limited to the realm, in the sense of possible harm of psychological or physical, actual external or actual internal worlds. Pseudo-morality is seen in things like holy books, or people who cognitively reconstruct an inhumane idea, like torturing people, or behavior to make it into something different than it is, to something more than moral than it actually is, or turn something highly immoral or, in a sense, unethical into something that is highly moral or highly ethical, in their opinion. One way that they do this is to cloak behaviors in what's called moral wrappings, or in divine authority, such as God hates gays, gays thus are evil, thus killing gays is doing good by destroying evil, a definite pseudo-morality. This thinking is obviously pseudo-morality, as gays are not evil. By killing them, you are doing evil, an inhumane idea, or a behavior that is very, in a sense, immoral or unethical. The God theory immorality into what is called morals is some of the most common pseudo-morality, though political leaders and others in power tend to employ it as well. They all are using pseudo-moral justifications to describe something that is immoral and unethical as being moral or ethical. True morality is not as simple as just a golden rule. True morality is valued behavior we do that interacts with others in a positive way, or a pro-social way, at least. It is not, in a sense, really related to what we do to ourselves, which is why I do not agree with the so-called golden rule, that it is what you do not want to have done to you, you don't do to others. But this fails at the, in a sense, focusing on ourselves, which is us focused. And true morality needs to be other focused, how we behave on what is valued behavior, so we do not interact with others wrongly. One could simply say this. You could say, well, if I have the belief, internally, like it said, the golden rules don't do unto others you would in a sense do to yourself. But if I said, well, I think it's wrong to be gay, thus if I was gay I should be harmed, and then as a pseudo morality, and then I could say, well, because of that, harming gays is fine, because if I was gay I would want to be harmed. Instead of actually seeing the true, real morality with ethics and how we socially interact with with others, is that we should not harm others, period. And so to do so, especially for a reason like just because someone is gay, would absolutely be a violation of ethics. And a violation of, like I said, true morality. People, in a sense, have self-ownership, self-rights, right to dignity, freedom, and equality. True morality is valued behavior that we do that interacts with others, in a sense, starting from the conception that people matter. They have worth and value. It is, in a sense, this way that they should be treated. And my style, in a sense, uses kind of moral fear and moral love, which together motivates my moral, in a sense, understanding internally, and then thus my axiological ethics behavior externally. And when I say moral fear and moral love, in a sense, it's a weighing thing. It's like the justice and care ethics. It's sometimes, justice is important, and you can't, apply so much care ethics, and sometimes you need to apply more care ethics, and you can't always, do what is just. Like, it's, in other words, an eye for an eye, or whatever. So that something is purely just or whatever. Sometimes you have to have compassion. Like, say, if you say all people that kill people need to be killed. Well, what if I say it's a 2-year-old that killed someone? Should they still be killed? Or should we have compassion and understanding of their, in a sense, intellectual level and state of understanding? Because to me, in a sense, ethics are kind of like a social contract, and those, in a sense, have no ability to understand it. A kind of a social contract of how to behave. It's I don't know how right it would be to judge them fully under a standard they can't possibly understand. So the challenger responded, you stated that that is their error, not lowering the actual value. True morality is valued behavior we do that interacts with others. Well, actual and true sound like you're positioning that there is absolute morality. That's hard to defend. You have to show, one, that absolute moral object exists. By the way, I basically agree with your morality you put forth, but it is based on human flourishing. An alpha male could say he doesn't value flourishing of all humans, just himself and his loved ones, or just the loyal ones, and have no way to say that he is wrong by his values. Or he might not even care what is wrong in general. Or two, that humans can know what they are. Then, even if you could show all that, we still have social problem that millions of humans aren't feeling it, or their feelings say they know what is real morality, and it's different from yours. In our country, their vote is equal to yours, so that is how we decide moral issues. And they have the right to be wrong. Challenger. My response, I work to reason with others, to see the need, to see our shared humanity and the values of human flourishing, as well as we get that we rise by helping each other. I agree, not all do, and it will be a hard task for some, but I appreciate the chance to do all I can. And the challenger, Damien AtHope. Yeah, one of the hardest things of my liberal mind to get around is many people don't care about the flourishing of people. They feel just fine taking care of their own. I thought equalitarianism was a universal value, but I was just ignorant and wrong. I could only think that by living in my liberal bubble and not reading Hobbes or Plato, who both advise rules by elites. Finally, if I value liberty, I have to allow them to be selfish. Ayn Rand followers are equal citizens and their vote is as good as mine. My response, I thought we were more evolved or getting there in wishing better human flourishing together too. Then Trump and the rise of the alt-right really reminded me of the power of hate and selfishness. This further showed me this will be way more than just a life's mission to help. It will need a never-ending battle all humanity will always face and need to struggle against. It shows me we are responsible to get involved where we can and inspire others to do the same, to show or help others understand equalitarianism is a universal value. Challenger's response, Damien AtHope. That is my wish too, except game theory. The more we succeed at getting people to adapt to egalitarianism, the more opportunity it will create for cheaters and others to exploit. And the reward for cheating is highest when there are the fewest cheaters. And even if humans didn't cheat, all might. My conclusion is that there is no universal values, only ones we wish there were. And so my response, babies and morality. They believe that babies are in fact born with an innate sense of morality. And while parents and society help to develop belief systems in babies, they don't create one. A team of researchers at Yale's University's Infant Cognition Center, known as the Baby Lab, showed that just how they came to that conclusion. Animals and morality. 5 animals with moral compasses. Moreover, animals can tell right from wrong in a general sense. Scientists studying animal behavior believe that they have growing evidence for that species ranging from mice to primates are governed by moral codes of conduct in the same way as humans. Likewise, in the book The Wild Justice, The Moral Lives of Animals, scientists have long, in a sense, counseled against interpreting animal behavior in terms of human emotions, warning that such anthropomorphizing limits our ability to understand animals as they really are. Yet, what we are, in a sense, able to make is a female gorilla in a German zoo who spent days, in a sense, mourning the death after her baby, or a wild female elephant who cared for a young one after she was injured by, in a sense, a rambunctious teenage male, or a rat who refused to push a lever for food, when he saw that doing so caused another rat to get shocked. Aren't these clear signs that animals have some recognizable emotions or moral intelligence? With Wild Justice, Beckoff and Jessica Pierce unequivocally answer yes. Marrying years of behavioral and cognitive research with compelling and motivating anecdotes, Beckhoff and Peirce reveal that animals exhibit a broad repertoire of moral emotions, including fairness, empathy, trust, and reciprocity. Underlying these behaviors is a complex and nuanced range of emotions, backed by a high degree of intelligence and surprising behavioral flexibility. Animals, in short, are, in a sense, incredibly adept social beings, relying on rules of conduct to navigate, in a sense, social networks that are external to their survival. Ultimately, Beckhoff and Peirce draw the astonishing conclusion that there are no moral gaps between humans and other species. Morality is an evolved trait that we unquestionably share with other social animals. To me, my morality is more universal ethics, and I strive to inspire that. Here are the universal principles of social and global ethics. Global justice as referred to international laws. Safety before self and personal responsibility. Society before self and social responsibility. Environmental stewardship. Interdependence and responsibility for the whole. Reverence for place. Here are the universal principles for professional or political ethics. In a sense, objectivity and impartiality, openness, full disclosure, confidentiality, due diligence, due care, fidelity to professional responsibilities, avoiding potential or apparent conflicts of interest. Here are the universal principles of personal ethics. Concern for the well-being of others, respect for the autonomy of others, trustworthiness and honesty, willing compliance to the law, with exception to civil disobedience that is required for unjust laws, basic justice, being fair, results in taking, in a sense, not taking unfair advantage, benevolence, doing good, and in a sense, the intentional prevention of harm. And by Larry Colorero. And so the challenger responded, Damien, AtHope, that all sounds good, but there is not enough food. I am going to feed my kids before yours. I wouldn't blame you if you did that too. And let me just respond to that, not something I actually said to him, but a direct response to that. Axiologically, to me, all of us start, in a sense, at ourselves, and then rings of value go out from there. So, in other words, like my highest value is to me, and then to my family, and then to my friends and neighborhood, and city, and country, and whatever. And in general, that's how people think. So but that doesn't make it bad. The point is that what comes different is, let's say someone's a police officer or a fire department. Instead, they have taken the city or whatever and then put it into their, in a sense, what would be the ring of family. So my axiology, in a sense, doesn't change. It's that people make decisions. Like when someone says they're in the military, they don't just limit themselves to their life or their family's life. They don't even limit it to a city. They've now done it for, in a sense, a whole country or region or whatever. Or it could be more than that. But so what's not changed is it's all you've done. The rings didn't change of value. You just place more people inside the ring, depending on your positions. So, but what I said was, my response, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a declaration that was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly at 10 December 1948. The challenger, Damien, AtHope. First, that is obvious appraisal. No sane person could think it was actually true. And in my response, it, to me, is more about prescriptive or normative ethics, how people should act, than descriptive ethics, what people think is right. And I would say that there is no such thing as just rape as an actually true ethic. And descriptive ethics is a form of, in a sense, generally empirical research into attitudes of individuals or groups of people, because since descriptive ethics involves empirical investigation into the fields that usually investigated by those working in fields like evolutionary biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology. My use of value theory can either be normative or descriptive. Normative ethics, in a sense, is the study, or could be considered prescriptive, is the study of ethical action. It is a branch of philosophical ethics that investigates a set of questions that arise when concerning how one ought to act in a moral speaking framework. And so the challenger responded in a different post, though, because we ended that conversation. Well, we all participate in shared fictions like money, marriage, and capitalism. They are real, and the checks we cash are fine. This is how religious belief is for millions of people. It is real as money. It is shared currency they use to cash checks. Moreover, there is no feeling-free way to arrive at facts. Science is not dispassionate, purely rational endeavor. All humans are driven by their passions and then look for facts to support them. My response: I'm an anti-capitalist, and though I don't think it is fiction, I do think that it is a method of oppression. Please explain what you mean by capitalism as a fiction. Do you believe you have just offered facts, or are you offering feelings? And as to your statement, money is a fiction, what do you mean? Are you implying that people believe that paper money, per se, has little or no intrinsic value unto itself? If so, you are, in a sense, implying people think it does? And if your statements that marriage is a fiction, what do you mean? And as to your statement, there is no feeling-free way to arrive at facts, are you saying that there are no facts? As in, are you, as a fact, regardless of feelings, no matter of feeling or not, responding to a post I made on my profile, and as a fact, not your profile? Or as a fact, regardless of feeling or not feeling, are we not, in fact, not communicating over the internet, on Facebook, as well as using the English language to do so? Your statement, all humans are driven by their passions, doesn't prove your claims that it seems you are wanting to prove. Or maybe I don't get what you mean by the word facts. So please fully explain what you mean by fact. Faith is in favor with low truth hobbyists or occasional truth vacationers who feel this wishful thinking of faith without evidence or justification is then to be seen as true, presumably because they wish it to be so by faith. As in, if it feels truish, to their wishes, then they seem to say, hey, even if it's a claim with a ridiculous magical assertion, as long as they wish it to be true, it is accepted as such because they want to believe. Then they simply do so on faith, strong belief without evidence. They do so even when there is no proof at all. In this state of being so faith drunk, even the absurd to such faith affected generally seem to be true or wish to believe. It involves holding a high amount of faith even over reason, seen as the quality of faith, as a possible pseudo-fact, which they will, of course, wish to just call a fact, even though it is no such thing. And upon the quicksand of the mind called faith, they seem to blindly believe that faith itself is some sort of magical producing evidence supply. Due to the faith involved belief, as well as seem to see this folly of faith, will to believe, so to say, as some kind of actual offered evidence, not ever seeming to see the need to question, is it really true? The challenger. Damien AtHope. Okay, all that sounds good. Like W.K. Clifford in his Ethics of Belief. It also fits well in Bernard Russell's epistemology. But let's follow the evidence. We have learned a lot about human knowledge since that time. Even before then, Hume pointed out that reason is and ought to be a slave to the passions. The passions tell us that we care about and what we reason towards those conclusions. In modern times, we know that we are full of confirmation bias and motivated reasoning. Now this is just a descriptive, not prescriptive. Many times we try to overcome our biases, but many times we don't. For instance, if there were good reasons for me to sacrifice my children, I would not be very open to that. I would violate my passions. Also, on things like free will, I am fairly convinced that we don't have free will. But I am just as convinced I cannot ever feel that way. So I conclude to the fact that if I have it, and I speak of I have it, even if it makes moral decisions based on myself and other people having it, while I am pretty sure they don't, then in the 60s, it was shown that science is a social activity full of passions, bias, and politics. That doesn't mean I cannot arrive at truth. We keep science as long as we are We keep science as long as we have a fallible list approach to it. We must remain aware that in any given time, we all believe false things. The difference in rational scientific people is that we are ready to give them up if something better comes along. My response. Saying we have learned a lot of evidence is not discounting of a method of thinking, nor does it provide accuracy of your many truth claims, and to me actually sounds more like assertions of fact to which your first posts seem to try to delude and refute in some way or amount. And I still am waiting for a direct answer to my question of your many claims, not more facts or truth claims. We can get to those, but you need to answer first. And the challenger's response. So if all that is correct, Science is not a dispassionate, detached activity. It may still be the best way to find out knowledge about the world, though. The way in which money is fiction is that it is not independently real. It is a shared system that works as long as we agree on it. So it is not real in a way an electron is real. Oh, but we have to say it is real. Marriage and law firms and corporations and nations are real in that way too. Games are a great example. When we are in a video game, there are appropriate and inappropriate things to do, and things are in a world, they are real. And some things are not in the world. They are just absent or not real in that world. Our brains are virtual reality generators, so this comes very natural to us. Now it seems to be a matter of psychology and preference whether we consider those virtual realities to be significant as external realities discovered through science. I once thought I was a hard-nosed realist, and only real things made out of quarks and gluons, but I am much more willing now to let things like money and commitment and language into my ontology. I think it is obvious they are real, and if they are not independently real, even if they're not independently real. My response: let's start one by one. You stated, so if all of that is correct, science is not a dispassionate, detached activity. It may still be the best way to know about the world, though. So then please explain what you mean when you stated science is not a dispassionate, purely rational endeavor. All humans are driven by their passions and then look for facts to support them. Is it as some proof against my post? If so, how? And if it was just you offering your ideas, and I wonder why, and also see you did say that doesn't mean it cannot arrive at the truth. What then are you responding for, and to what point, as in, do I hold that we can know through that? If you agree that you are saying it is accomplished outside of science, by what standard or method, if you think it is dissimilar to what I have said, as it seems you are both agreeing and trying to disagree, unless I am misunderstanding. Saying the way in which money is fiction is not independently real, I feel is odd. As in, do you think you are claiming that it is seen as a real-world product? It is seen as an agreement that relates to the ability to transfer worth. Thus, it is a concept of value, not limited to external reality value unto itself. If your response about marriage and law firms and corporations and nations are in that way real too, again, these are social contracts. Thus, it is odd for you to say they don't exist as some tangible thing, and saying they don't further a value claim, as they are not seen in that way to begin with. Thus, we are back at you needing to explain why you address them as such, and as they are not conceived in that way, that you say that would make them fictions. You seem to be adding a nothing assertion that intellectually starts nowhere and then goes nowhere, thus providing nothing of real use to support your assumptions. If you feel I am misunderstanding, please fully explain. And the challenger. The short version is that feelings are facts about people. Some feelings constitute a virtual reality for that person, and the people who accept that science says are just the people whose feelings let them. Everyone, no matter how committed to science, has positive illusions. I'm smart, I'm loyal, I'm virtuous, I'm moral, etc. that are not based on evidence. They are feelings that are psychological and emotional facts for that person. People who can't accept evolution or climate change are people who have a value or passion that would be violated if they accept them. They are like me when it comes to free will. They simply can't feel that I don't have it. My evolved brain and emotions don't have that capacity. I think many religious people are so constituted that they cannot accept that certain things violate their values. And we are the same, but about different things. So I have given up saying that all people ought to accept science has to tell us. When I believed that, I didn't know enough about psychology. Now I can see that it is unreasonable to expect a person to accept something that violates their values. It is like expecting a dog to feel bad about killing a rabbit. It's not in him. I would disagree with that completely, though. You can certainly help an animal understand not to harm. And I already explained that animals have moral systems and do engage in moral actions. And my response, though, stating that feelings are facts about people, to me is to address another point, not provide me proof of your claims, nor discredit my claims. If we agreed feelings are facts relating to people, we would be addressing that feelings are phenomenology structures of experience and consciousness, not external demonstrations of real-world external facts, all by themselves. I imagine with all the intellectual words you seem to enjoy that you have professed, that you do know that there is not just one type of certainty, that there are at least two types. One is psychological certainty, feelings certainty that philosophy cares little about, and epistemic certainty. And that is the one valued by both philosophy and unknowingly by science. A belief is psychologically certain when the subject of who it is supremely convinced of its truth, which is an opinion, which can be justified or not justified, but it's still just an opinion, a belief. The second kind of certainty is epistemic, roughly characterized as a belief is certain in this sense when it has the highest, in a sense, possible epistemic status or knowledge status. Epistemic or knowledge certainty is often accompanied by psychological certainty, but it is not need to be so. It is possible that a subject may have a belief that enjoys the highest possible epistemic status or knowledge status, and yet is unaware that it actually is this case or that it does have this high status of knowledge attached to it. Challenger, Damien, AtHope. Yeah, well, that fits with what I'm saying. My response. You stated, I can see that it is unreasonable to expect a person to accept things that violates their values. So am I to assume you are not trying to change my thinking or my approach, just sharing your ideas that you like, as it makes you happy to do so? Or are you just trying to have or kill time and are waiting and are writing on my post, making lots of claims, challenging me for kicks? Surely you're not wanting me to accept something that violates their values, right? You offered your ideas, in my opinion, trying to directly change or challenge what I have said, unless you feel you are or were adhering to something else, and I am just misunderstanding you. This has been a fun talk. We should do a recorded video sometime. Challenger's response. Damien, AtHope, you stated, you offered your ideas, in my opinion, trying to directly change or challenge what I said. And what he said to that was, I get your point. But if what I am saying hangs together, then whether my ideas are persuasive to you depends on your values. Since I don't know you, I have no idea if they will fit your values. Now you could say I want others to adopt my values, which it does seem you do. But the key point is the key point I am making is that might be possible. It didn't sound like it before, or it sounds like you shouldn't do it, but if humans are constituted differently, and Hegel's research says they are, then people can't just change their values. I disagree that people can't change values. Values are internal ideas. They're structures of understanding. You can absolutely change understanding. Perspective helps you do this. But anyways, sorry. They are bred into them. So you mean it's nurture or external forces, not internal realities. Okay, but then that would mean that they can change if they're bred into them, not born into them. It is like not feeling disgusted at certain things. For instance, which is often social or learned behavior. But some things are internal, like certain colors we're prone to seeing as disgusting because of evolution. In a sense, people that had this persuasion towards some colors being disgusting don't eat, or some colors being good eat, is actually because those people lived. But anyways, and so it passed down those traits of persuasion. Anyways, they are bred into them. It's like not feeling disgust at certain things. For instance, I am open to changing my views of gay marriage. I support it, and I can tell I'm not open-minded about it. This makes me think that gay marriage opponent might be made so that they can't or won't change their mind as well. My response. So are you open to doing a recorded video? I think it would be fun. But then I go on. I am an axiological or axiologist thinker, thus a value theorist. I want a war of ideas where the loser is ignorance or hate and the victor is kindness and a rational mind. Not another religious war with people where the loser is always humanity, no matter the victor. What I hope for with my discussions or expressed ideas is not so much to strive to change people's mind, but instead I wish to inspire your mind to reason and to thrive on the search for valid and reliable reason and evidence, as well as have a high standard in your ethics of belief. This ethics of belief I hope everyone adopts is something like this: reasoned belief acquisitions, good belief maintenance, and honest belief relinquishment. As an axiological value theorist atheist, and claims of God are, in a sense, presumptive value failures. Simply, if you presume a thing is of value that you cannot justify, then you have committed an axiological presumptive value failure. And let me really quick address this too in another way, because I'm going to go on before what I said to him. But I want to make a point that in a sense, in an axiological sense, it's not just the term God, it's every term. In other words, to me, people use, as an axiologist, interchangeable terms. So they'll say fact, evidence, belief, they'll say knowledge, truth, whatever. All those kind of things are all, in a sense, labels that we, in a sense, place on things that we think are the accuracy of the case. So if I believe something, I accurately am professing or accepting that it's the case. If I say it's true, I'm thinking that it is achieved this value. If I say it's a fact, I think that it attaches to something that accurately is, in a sense, expressed, demonstratable, or through reason or whatever, that it is the case. So I'm saying that term is attaching to some value. So as an axiologist, that's all those terms, in a sense, are interchangeable because, in a sense, they're all professing what is, to me, in a sense, a presumed value. So presumed value is what they're doing. No matter what you're calling these terms, they're all presumed value. And it's your job, in a sense, or burden of proof, to, in a sense, demonstrate that it accurately has a presumed value, and thus you get a presumptive value success in doing so, and a presumptive value failure if you do not. Now, some people could say, well, you can't say that means that we know for sure that something is or is not the case. Well, I can know for sure that you have failed at addressing correctly and justifying your presumptive value. So as an axiologist, you have created a presumptive value failure because I'm addressing your failure to justify your presumptive value. Let me go on. So presumptive value success. Sound thinker uses disciplined rationality, sound axiological judgment to evaluate an evaluation of the evidence to make a clear decision, supporting a valid and reliable justification, or, in a sense, making a positive action in your burden of proof requirement. And an axiological presumptive value failure. Shallow thinker, undisciplined, situational, sporadic, or limited thinking, unsound axiological judgment, lacking required evidence to make a presumptive value success decision or proof. Lacking the support of a needed, valid, and reliable justification, or a burden of proof failure. Often, I get disheartened to see that so many people can look at the unknown, right, which would be the proposition of God, the unknown, or that which is devoid of any or all understanding, and then claim to know it. And that they believe this evidence is some things like God or another. How can they all honestly even say that something that we already know about established scientific unknown, like let's say that before the Big Bang, they'll say before the Big Bang was God. Well, how can we establish something that's already scientifically unknown, and then all along it ever was unknown, and which reminds you is currently still holding this currently unknown status as somehow then you know it. Thus, still fully intact and currently unknowable, i.e. you simply cannot justify a claim that which is unknown is thus a God or evidence of a God. What is a God anyway? The term God equals at best mystery that is used to explain the mysterious, leaving us with yet more mystery thus explains nothing. God claims are a presumptive value failure. Simply, if you presume a thing is of value that you cannot justify, then you have committed an axiological presumptive value failure. Axiological presumptive value success. As I stated before, a sound thinker uses disciplined rationality, sound axiological value judgment, with the evaluation of the available evidence and make a decision, supported by, like I said, valid and reliable, thus justification. Thus you have confirmed a valid, in a sense, burden of proof. But here's a little more on axiology and value theory. Value theory is a range of approaches to understand the how, the why, and the what degree persons value things, and whether the objects or subjects of value is a person, idea, object, or anything else. This investigation began in ancient philosophy in what was now called axiology, and some people just call it as a branch of ethics. The term, but it would be like the ethics of belief, right, when it relates to non-morality things. The term value theory is used in at least 3 different ways in philosophy. In its broadest sense, value theory is a catch-all label that encompasses all branches of moral philosophy, social and political philosophy, aesthetics, and sometimes feminist philosophy and the philosophy of religion. Whatever areas of philosophy are deemed to encompass evaluative aspects. In its narrowest sense, value theory is used in a relatively narrow area of normative ethical theory, particularly, but not exclusively, of concerns of consequentialists. Like, in other words, what is the consequence of this action? In the narrowest sense, value theory is roughly autonomous with axiology. Axiology can be thought as primarily concerned with the classification what things are good and how good they are. And that's from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. For instance, a traditional question of axiology concerned whether objects of value are subjective psychological states or objective states of the world. But in a more useful sense, value theory designates the area of moral philosophy that is concerned with theoretical questions about value and goodness in all varieties. The theory of value. The theory of value is also constructed and encompasses axiology, but includes many other questions about the nature of value and its relation to moral categories. Stanford University of Philosophy. The division of moral theory into the theory of values as contrasting with other areas of investigations cross-cut the traditional classification of moral theory into normative and meta-inquiry, but is a worthy distinction in its own right. Theoretical questions about value constitute a core domain of interest in moral theory. Often cross-cut the boundaries between normative and meta-ethical and distinguished history of investigation, as stated by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. To me, faith is not ever needed. There is no requirement to use faith. We can use conjecture or inference. Faith is not needed. Conjecture involves forming an opinion or supposition about something on the basis of incomplete information. And in that sense, I wouldn't fully believe it then. If I may, in a sense, hold it as a propositional or hypothetical belief, or a possible belief that I'm going to fully believe, but I would not fully believe it, and I would be very open to figuring out if it's accurate, if I have incomplete information. Inference involves forming a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning from the evidence. And so in that sense, we have more evidence, and so there's more, in a sense, epistemic reason or a knowledge-based reason to start believing if you have inference. You have something more relatable. But still, you should always be careful, because then if you don't have, in a sense, more of a full confirmation, then you should be very, wary about fully accepting this. Although if you do fully accept it, you should be looking and ready to change it if needed. Religious beliefs often don't stay in the belief category, as if it is something chosen temporarily if needed or changeable if required. No, what is most common is that religious beliefs are completely infused into a person's identity. Thus, it is not always, in a sense, what they believe. It is more a sense, a factor of what they think they are. What that means is that if they later are challenged or given reason to let the belief go, this is largely seen as disruptive, because they feel their belief are mixed with the person's identity, making it's a loss. Not just a possible belief loss, but a perceived personal identity loss. Religions continuing in a sense, though, in our modern world full of science and facts, should be seen as little more than, in a sense, irrational conspiracy theories of reality. Nothing more than a confused reality made up of unscientific echoes from man's ancient past. Rational thinkers must ask themselves, why continue to believe in religion stories on faith? Religion myths, which are nothing more than childlike stories of obsolete tales once used to explain how the world works, acting like as if magic was needed when it was always only nature. These childlike religious stories should not be taken seriously, but too often they are. Often, without realizing it, though, we accumulate beliefs that we allow to negatively influence our lives. In order to bring about new awareness, we need to be willing to alter skewed beliefs. Rational thinkers must examine the facts instead of blindly following beliefs or faith. To me, there is and rightly must be an intellectual ethics of belief responsibility or burden of proof. To justify the believe or claim truth to others, to actually demonstrate it as being truth with valid and reliable reason and evidence, when it is stated as such. Yes, intellectually, one should provide justificationism for their assertions that map the sort of governing good habits of belief formation, belief maintenance, and belief relinquishment. If you are a religious believer, may I remind you that faith in the acquisition of knowledge is not a valid method worth believing in. Because what proof is faith of anything religions claim by faith, as many people can have different faith even in the same religion, even about the same book, or the same holy figures. Ask 10 people about God, you may get 10 different answers. I do not respect faith, but I do respect people. Simply, I value the sanctity of human rights and the dignity of every person to self-define their beliefs, and do not attack people because of what they believe. I attack their thinking or their behavior, not people. What I do is truth navigation in general. It's both inquiry questions as well as strategic facts in a tag team light of debate and motivational teaching. The goal, though, is to compare ideas, not people. Attack thinking, not people. In this way, we have a higher chance to promote change, because it is thinking we can help change if we address the thinking and do not attack them. So my eclectic set of tools, which I call the truth navigation, which is techniques for discussions or debates, involves REMS, which is reason or rationalism, evidence or empiricism, and methodological truth-seeking, skepticism or melodic doubt, or methodological skepticism. The basic and general approaches. But my questions are the hammer of truth, which is ontology, epistemology, and axiology, which is a methodological use of philosophy. And then dialectical rhetoric, truth persuasion, the use of facts and reasoning to motivational teaching. And I also utilize dignity, which is a strategy of dignity attacks or dignity enrichments, though I only use this if there's confusion happening or resistance persists. Asking the right questions at the right time in the right way with the right info can also change minds. You can't just use facts all on their own. Denial, though, likes consistency. The pattern of thinking for that denial cannot vary from a fixed standard of thinking, or the risk of truth could slip in. Helping people alter skewed thinking is indeed a large task, but most definitely a worthy endeavor. Some of my ideas are because I am educated in both some college. I have a BA in psychology with addictions treatment, sociology, and a little teaching and criminology. As well as I am an autodidact, I have become somewhat educated in philosophy, science, archaeology, anthropology, and history. And I would say probably moral theory. But this is not only the only reason for all my ideas. It is also because I'm a deep thinker and I strive for truth. Moreover, I am a seeker of truth and a lover of that which is true. As well as I've had, people help me in my life to aid me in thinking and address my errors, especially my wife, who some of the ways I talk and think and ask questions are derived from her doing that to me. Faith-drunk thinking. Divine, fallacy, argument from incredulity and argument from ignorance. And a different challenger said, Damien, perhaps it isn't clear-cut as we think. The universe being a physical entity stretching into infinity is very difficult for us to wrap our minds around. But stretching into infinity is a lot difficult in our imagination. What if reality is more perception than physical? Isn't imagination more in tune with infinity than something physical? Could it be a collective consciousness that created the universe and everything in it? I agree, a glorified version of man is not the creator of the universe, especially one that suffers the same childishly and immature emotions that plague mankind, such as jealousy and vengeance. My response, you stated, isn't imagination more in tune with infinity? A logical fallacy, as it's inherent to the accuracy of reality, irrelevant to the accuracy of reality. To the question, what if reality is more perception than physical? My response, no, as there is no universal state of all human perception equally. Perception is fluid, not reality. So no, reality is not simply perception. And to the question, could it all be collective consciousness that created the universe? Again, no. There is no reality contingent outside human perception to include collective or consciousness, whatever that means, or otherwise. And if reality was due only to perceptive collective consciousness, whether it would be fluid, though not fixed, and as it is not, that can be removed as also invalid. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you liked